What's up, everyone? Monster Master Godzilla here. We're continuing the Star Wars-A-Thon. We're now up to the Return of the Jedi. Now, here we are. This is the final chapter of the original trilogy. Now, this one, we're continuing where we left off on Empire Strikes Back, where Jabba has the Hutt has Han Solo in carbonating. Lando Calrissian is like undercover as one of the guards, and so Leia ends up, and so there's a bounty hunter like Bausch ends up being in disguise, which is actually revealed to be Leia in disguise as a bounty hunter, and he pretends to be a bounty hunter capturing Chewbacca and ends up giving him to Jabba the Hutt as the prisoner. And so, right when Leia ends up rescuing Han Solo, who has been trapped in the carbonation for 3 years, which he was trying to recover from the carbonation, which being blind temporarily. And so, just when Leia and Han were about to escape from Jabba, they end up getting caught. And so Leia ends up getting captured by Jabba, and she ends up becoming Jabba's slave. And so ends up becoming one of Jabba's slaves. She was forced into wearing this metal gold bikini, which that one kind of got a little, controversial by some people, especially when they sexualized Princess Leia, which that's the best thing about for people in the 80s, that they sexualized Princess Leia, that they made her someone you want to lust for, which I was okay with that. Like, wow, maybe, yeah. And basically you could say that Han is one lucky smuggler. Wow. And then Luke shows up, this time as a Jedi, wearing all black with a black glove. And instead of having a blue lightsaber, he ends up having a green lightsaber. He lost his blue lightsaber in the battle against Darth Vader in Empire Strikes Back. And so they end up battling. So as he comes face to face with Jabba, he tell him to release Leia as well as Han and Chewbacca. But they're unable to cooperate. He ends up falling into the pit of a monster called a Rancor. So Luke ends up battling the Rancor, and he won, and he kills the Rancor. And just when they were about to escape, Luke and Han ends up getting taken to the Sarlacc pit. And also Boba Fett makes his one final appearance in this one, where it turns out and they end up battling against Jabba, and Leia was able to escape from Jabba, this time by killing Jabba with the chains, by strangling him to death with chains. So basically, that's when the slave costume, the slave outfit, became famous as a cosplay called Hutt Slayer, which they call it a Hutt Slayer in some cases, but I like to say slave Leia. So, I mean, so then they battled the Jabba and his goons, and Boba Fett ends up falling to his doom in a Sarlacc pit, which in this one they say that he died falling into the Sarlacc pit. He was supposed to be dead in the Sarlacc pit, but that was before Disney bought Star Wars. When Disney bought Star Wars, they ended up going back to Return of the Jedi when they reintroduced him in Season 2 of The Mandalorian and gave him a show called The Book of Boba Fett, which took place between Episode 6 and 7, where it turns out he survived. So now after they escaped Tatooine, Luke ends up going back to Dagobah, and so they can complete his training. But sadly, that didn't last. Yoda ends up dying. He lived to be like over 900 years old, and so he became deathly ill. And after that, he says there has to be one final thing he has to do to complete his training, which is defeat Vader. Was to defeat Darth Vader. That he's the only hope. It's the only hope to complete his training. And so after that, Yoda ends up dying and dies. And just when he dies, his body just disappears and the blanket falls down. And now Yoda's gone. And it's revealed that Leia was actually Luke's sister the whole time. His twin sister. After revealed that Vader was actually Luke's father, it turns out Leia was actually his twin sister. So yes, you'll find out why they're twins in the prequel trilogy. And they mentioned their mother, but they didn't. Their mother's name was unknown. And now, this is the first time we actually see the Emperor physically, as they were ready for battle, and they end up rebuilding the Death Star. And so, as they were in the battle, they the rebel crew ends up learning about the Death Star being built. And famous character was called Admiral Akbar, and who only appears in Episode 6, The Return of the Jedi, and later has another appearance in Force Awakens. And he has a famous line, and it's called "It's a trap." And then one of the most famous scenes in battle was when they were in Endor, which is the name of the forest, which is the name of the planet, which is in the forest. And you end up meeting more of those like stormtroopers called biker scouts. And they were in a battle against each other. And then when they end up meeting up these forest-dwelling creatures called Ewoks, which look like little teddy bears, and they're so, oh my god, they're so cute. Like one of the most adorable creatures ever, but can be quite vicious. So they end up capturing the crew, and they end up idolizing C-3PO, thinking that he's a god. They end up worshipping C-3PO like he's a god. So as C-3PO is being worshipped as a god, he rather released them after they took him to the village. And so, even C-3PO tells a story about why they needed their help, especially against Vader and the Imperials. And so the Luke ends up talking to Leia, revealing to her that they're actually brother and sister. And so Luke ends up ends up finding Vader, and he ends up giving himself up to the Imperials. So as he surrenders to the Imperials, he ends up meeting face to face with Vader. And so then Luke tries to talk to Vader, knowing that there is good in him, and trying to help him turn his life around. So that's when Vader comes off in conflict with himself. And right when they were getting to know each other, Luke ends up acknowledging Vader calling him father instead of Vader, because now he wants to accept that, knowing that Vader is actually his dad. So that's when he meets up with Vader and calls him father. So they ends up taking. So then Vader ends up finding out that Luke has constructed a lightsaber, which is the green one. He says, "I see you have constructed yourself a new lightsaber," as his lightsaber was taken away from him. So they end up meeting face to face with the Emperor, and he says, "Obi-Wan has taught you well and stuff." So Vader, the Emperor was, after he meets face to face with the Emperor, both Luke and Vader end up fighting one last time, and the battle starts to, when they're in battle, Vader senses about Leia, and he says, "Yes, something familiar. Yes, sister. It seems you have a twin sister. Maybe if you won't join me in the Empire, maybe I'll get your sister to join in." So then Luke ends up being triggered, and he takes on Vader, and then Vader ends up getting defeated by Luke by slicing his middle hand off, and then Vader is defeated. And so then the Emperor says, "Yes, kill him. He was weak. Prove yourself worthy to the dark side. On my side." But then Luke ends up refusing to kill Vader, and ends up facing the Emperor himself. So then the Emperor says to Luke, "Now, young Skywalker, you will die." And he tries to kill him with a Sith lightning, and Luke ends up begging Luke to save him. He said, "Father, please." And Vader comes and develops some conscience again. Starts developing conscience, looking at Vader, Luke, and then the Emperor. So then, after that, Vader ends up taking on the Emperor and throwing him off the edge and killing the Emperor. And the Emperor is finally dead, falling to his doom, and he dies. Well, sure, so you think. Because after that, Vader ends up dying himself. So, and then as the ship was about to be destroyed, so then the second Death Star is destroyed, and just when the space station was about to get blown to bits, Luke ends up taking Vader with him, and then Vader says to him in his dying moment, saying, "Luke, help me take this mask off." And then Luke says, "If I take it off, you'll die. Nothing matters right now. I just want to see you with my own eyes." And this moment where he gets the helmet off, in the original unaltered versions, you see he has bushy eyebrows even though he's burnt. But in the special editions, they changed it to where it's Hayden Christensen in the prequel trilogy, which I thought made a lot of sense because he has no eyebrows at all. I mean, it made no sense. If he's burned alive, if he was burnt, he shouldn't have bushy eyebrows. So when he's unmasked, Vader says, "Now, go, my son. Leave me." But Luke refuses to leave him, saying, "No, I'm not leaving you. I'm going to save you." He said, "You already have," he says. "Tell your sister I was right." So then Anakin ends up dying. And so he went to sleep and dies. And there you see Luke ends up crying. All because he sees his father die right in front of him. And so, then after that, he honored his father by taking his body to Endor and burns his body. And that's the end of Vader / Anakin. So the galaxy is saved. They all celebrated with fireworks. Even the Ewoks were all happy that they won. So Anakin. So after that, so at the end, Leia ends up telling Han that Luke and Leia are brother and sister, and so Han and Leia ends up hitting it off together, and they end up becoming a couple. And after that, so then Luke ends up joining the party with his best friend and sister, which she found out they're related. So they end up joining the celebration. And then Luke ends up seeing 3 Force ghosts. Obi-Wan, Yoda, and Anakin. And Anakin now looked very happy, now that he's finally free from the dark side. And that's the very end of Return of the Jedi. If you're a casual moviegoer, you definitely need to watch. It's definitely a must-watch, especially if you're getting into Star Wars yourself. And it's an absolute masterpiece and a great final ending of the original trilogy. And that's all I have to say, folks. And as always, stay awesome, my Monster Masters, and stay tuned for more. I will be reviewing Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, which is the beginning of the prequel trilogy. And that's all I have to say, folks. And as always, stay awesome, my Monster Masters, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Bye!